Hello, my name is Lori Dickman. Welcome to Quilting with Lori and my New Year's 9-patch quilt project. This is something that I think you're all going to enjoy, especially if you have a lot of scraps in your stash and you want to get them used up to make a beautiful quilt. And it is a beautiful quilt. This one has 12.5-inch unfinished blocks and they're set on point. There is a free PDF attached. It's in the description box below, so make sure you grab the PDF. It shows you how to make each of the blocks, and it also gives you a sample quilt. But I've done mine a little bit differently, and I'm also linking a video for you below on how you can put this together in the fashion that I have put mine together. Here's a little close-up of the block that I'm using. So the center is 36 1.5-inch squares, and then each of the four corners are 9-patch units that are using 9 squares. So you're going to be using 72 1.5-inch squares, or whatever size square you want to use, for each and every block. And then, of course, there are the rectangle units. And it's put together as a 9-patch unit, using the little squares on the outside, the big square in the center, and then the rectangles. So you're going to want to grab your stash of either 1.5-inch squares or 2-inch squares or 2.5-inch squares to make this block. And then, of course, you're going to need to make sure that your rectangle strips match the width of your 9 patches in the corners. And then you're going to be just fine as you're putting your block together. Mine are 3.5 inches wide to match the 9 patch that I have in my corners. And you'll see that on the PDF. It's a very simple process to figure that out. If you have any questions, just make a comment in the comment section and I'll help you with that. But it's a great quilt. I think you'll really enjoy being able to use up a lot of your scraps and make a gorgeous quilt. For those of you who have not seen my video tutorial on how to get your scrap stash cut, sorted, organized, and ready to use, you're going to want to watch that. I do have it linked below so you can follow along. It does follow along my Speedy Solutions Techniques book here, and I also have a corresponding Speedy Solutions Scrappy Patterns book. So between these two books, not only do you get all the techniques, but you get 17 beautiful scrappy patterns that you can use to use up your scrap stash. You'll see here on my tabletop that I have gone into my 1.5-inch bin and I have pulled out 36 1.5-inch squares for the center, which is a 36 patch unit, and I have pulled out another 36 1.5-inch squares, which I am using in the four corners, and those are simply 9 patches. I also went to my 3.5-inch bin, and it's a with the fabric strip, and I pulled lights, and I subcut them into 4 rectangles that measure 3.5 wide by 6.5 long. I do indicate in the PDF how you can actually use a 7-inch square. If you have 7-inch squares in your stash, you can simply cut that in half to obtain 2 3.5-inch rectangles, and then you simply have to trim off a 1/2 inch from one end to create the 3.5 by 6.5-inch rectangle for this block. And I am simply going to take this to my sewing machine and sew them together. And I do like to web my pieces together. And I'll link a video clip in the description box below that shows you how I like to web my blocks together. I like to web the units together, the blocks together, and I like to even web the entire quilt together. And that simply means that I'm starting in the left-hand corner, bringing the second row on top of the first, and then continuing bringing the third row on top of the second. And it's webbed together by a thread, and then I open it up, and then I'll sew the rows together. And then I'll do that for the block also. Check out that video link below, and it will show you how I love to web my quilt blocks and my quilts. I have gone ahead and webbed these outer corner units. I webbed the units individually before I do the complete block. So these are done, and I've pressed them. I've nested the seam allowances, pressed them in opposite directions, and squared them up to 3.5 inches. So now that 3.5 inch 9 patch will match the width of this rectangle, and the same with that one. Then I went to this girl right here, and I have gone down and webbed. I started here and just kept adding. I webbed that, so there's a string that it's attaching this entire, or the thread, I should say, that's attaching this entire row, or it's webbed together. And I just keep adding one more as I go across, as you saw in the video where I showed how I did that. So now this one is webbed, and I need to take each row then and put them on top and get them sewn together this way. And then this rectangle looking unit will end up being a 6.5 inch unit for the center. And then of course I'll press it and square it up to 6.5 inches. I have all of the pieces webbed together. So the 4 corner 9 patch units are webbed together, and the 36 patch is webbed together. The center is squared up to 6.5 inches. Now I can go ahead and literally put this block together. And again, I will web it. So I'm simply going to start by taking this block, bringing it to my machine, take the second row, put it on top, and line it up, and stitch the quarter in the silhouettes. And I'm going to come and grab the rectangle, and I'm going to take this and line it up along the edge of the rectangle and stitch the 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then I'll do the same here. I'll grab. Sorry, I just hit the camera. There we go. It's like I'm almost out of thread on the bobbin here. But you'll see what I've got so far is that. And it's webbed together down that side. And then I will continue by webbing this, sewing that on top of here, lining it up at the machine, lining that up at the machine, lining this up at the machine, sewing all the way down. And then the 3 columns will be webbed together. Then I'll stitch the rows together. All right, I apologize that the volume on that last clip wasn't very good, but I've gone ahead and changed my bobbin because I ran out of thread. And now I'm going to web the last column here to this. And so I'm simply going to take that small 9 patch, line it up, bring this whole thing to my machine, stitch a 1/4 inch seam allowance there. Then I'm going to line up this rectangle. I'm going to flip it right sides together. And then the last one will be this last corner 9 patch. There, it's ready now to be pressed and have the rows sewn together. Here is the block. It's completely finished. I have squared it up to 12.5 inches. And there it is. It's a beautiful block. It's very bright. And what I love is when you sash it with a dark color, it really makes everything pop. I used the navy blue on the quilt on the wall, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But this block is a great way to use up your stash. So I hope that you are going to take advantage of this and use up your 1.5 inch squares and make a lovely quilt for New Year's. So here are the blocks, and there are 9 of them set on point here, and they're sashed with royal blue sashing, and it just really makes it pop. It's beautiful. And don't forget to check out the links below. I'm going to have a couple of links. One is a live class where I taught how I put this together, so you'll want to watch through that. And I also have a link for a video that shows you how to get those large triangular corners on this quilt so it becomes a medallion. It's a video that teaches you how to cut those triangles to match up with your center and make that medallion set on point but be a square there. And I'll show you how to do the applique. There's also a PDF for the whimsical applique pieces. And back when I initially taught this class, I did have some wool pieces that I was selling, and unfortunately, they are all gone. You all purchased them. They were used, but you can certainly use wool from your favorite quilt shop, or you can even go to a Goodwill and find some 100% wool sweaters and just take them home and wash them and dry them to shrink them and cut out your own wool pieces. So I hope you'll all try the New Year's 9-patch quilt. It's a beautiful one. It's a great way to use up your scrap stash. And please don't forget to post pictures of what you're doing out on my Facebook group page. I'll have links for all of this below. The PDFs, it is a free PDF for the pattern and for the applique, and all of the video links. Everything that you need is in the description box below. If you like the content that I provide, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That really does help to grow my channel, and it gets out to more quilters just like yourself, and I really appreciate you helping me with that. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful new year, and until next week, happy quilting.